But in the last 2 weeks, we've talked about what happened on Easter Day. We've been impressed with Mary number one. She may not have recognised Jesus immediately she saw him, but as soon as he said her name, she knew who he was. Perhaps we've had more in common with Mary number two and her husband, who didn't have the faintest idea who Jesus was when they saw him, or even when they heard him speak at length. Their light bulb moment came over a meal. Even though they'd felt something quite exceptional early on, they'd never made the connection. Anyway, Mary and Cleopas race back to Jerusalem. They find that 4 people, now including Peter, as well as the 2 Marys and Cleopas, have seen the risen Jesus, and he's alive and fitter than ever. We don't know how many were in the house that night, though we can make an intelligent guess. There were probably 10 of the core Last Supper group. Judas was dead and Thomas was off doing his own thing somewhere else. So perhaps there was somewhere between 15 and 20. At this point, only one of the core group claims to have seen Jesus. That's Peter. And at the moment, his credibility isn't so great. We don't know how much the opinions of the others counted. But there must have been a whole range of views in the house that night. Some were hoping it was true. Others thought that grief had sent their friends mad. I like to think that Matthew was there and that he's reminded them that they should expect experiences like Mary's and Peter's and Cleopas's. He's the only one we know who made a note of what Jesus had said when they were back in Galilee. And he tries to make them pay attention to that because it's making sense now, at least to him. Jesus had said something strange. If 2 or 3 were gathered in his name, he would be among them. So from Matthew's point of view, it's true. Jesus is still here with us, even if he's dead. He's here in some psychic sense. It's just psychology. Well, if that happened, it makes a bit more sense of what occurred next, because when Jesus appeared, the majority reaction was not somebody must have left the door unlocked, but it's a ghost. That's a reaction even though those who had seen Jesus a few hours earlier had met the kind of person you would invite in for dinner. Somebody who could be confused with a professional gardener, tanned and muscular, certainly not a grey and bloodless apparition. And for Jesus, it wasn't the best of support groups to come home to, having to prove that he had still got a body, showing his wounds, allowing people to look closely and watching as he swallowed baked fish. How do we work with the story in our unprecedented circumstances? The idea that Matthew might have made a connection to the Gathered in My Name episode isn't totally random. I'm thinking about something John says about that evening, and also about the following week when Thomas, the resurrection denier, and General Wet Blanket turned up. John says that Jesus stood among them, in the middle, just like Matthew notes. If it wasn't for the unprecedented circumstances they were experiencing, it's hardly worth commenting on. Among, middle, in the midst are just ordinary common words. But given that the followers of Jesus were shocked, they were frightened, they felt alone even when they were together and behind barred and bolted doors, it is worth thinking about. Most of us know what it's like to be assured that Jesus is with us when we're on our own. And at least on occasion, we are aware of him being among us when we meet. His closeness might give us that burning heart sensation, or make us warm and comfortable, or feel unusually chilled and relaxed. But what about in our new world? The last couple of weeks we've talked about knowing Jesus is with us, by our side, involved in our thinking. My take is that knowing that he's among us when we're meeting virtually, standing between us, is going to require a step up to another level. I'll put my hand up. When I'm watching something on my own on YouTube that feeds my faith, I can sometimes, perhaps often, feel the Spirit come close, even more than when I'm in a real life event. FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, not so much. It's not you guys particularly, but looking at lots of faces in different rooms is weird. But video chat must be covered by Jesus' all-time statement about being among us, as well as cathedrals, village halls and whatever, because if not, we're on our own at the moment. I'm finding that practicing the presence on my own is mainly a matter of paying attention. But then I've had lots of practice. I have a study where I can shut the door and crank the music up, and I don't have kids around who need someone to interact with them all the time they're awake. But being aware of Jesus among us when we're online, where we're in a virtual context, is a different matter. I know that Rosie and some of you others get a connection from morning prayer, which some people in Dayspring do. And I found my attention caught on Desert Days and more recently on Dayspring WhatsApp by songs and by artwork from Philippa's journal. And I've had some good phone calls where Jesus is part of it. Zoom, I'm not so sure about. But I do believe that if we gather in his name, Jesus is there in a special way, even when it's a digital meeting, a virtual meeting. And I want to get to pressing the off button, knowing that Jesus has been among us, in the middle, somewhere between your kitchen table and my front room. If that's a goal for you too, it would be great to get some chat going, to build faith and to focus. And if you're struggling to be aware of the Spirit when you're on your own, do call or message someone. Knowing God's closeness, at least some of the time, is a gift with your name on, waiting to be unwrapped. And we'd be honoured to walk with you to your virtual Emmaus, or to wait together for the Spirit to come again to your digital upper room.